This is breaking news from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Coming to you right now with a breaking news special report. A terror attack in Lower Manhattan, a mile-long and deadly rampage by a pickup truck on a popular bike path. Innocent people outside on a beautiful Halloween afternoon run down, and 8 of them were killed. Good evening, everyone. The special report. I'm Bill Ritter.
And I'm Diana Williams. This horrific attack playing out on the West Side bike path in Lower Manhattan about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And here's what we know at this hour. At least 8 people are dead, 15 more injured. And the suspect was shot by police and now is in custody and we understand intubated at the hospital. This is now being investigated as an act of terror.
Just moments ago, we received this new photo of the suspect, now identified as 29-year-old Sayfulo Saipov. Here's what we know about him, and we're learning more. He's from Tampa, Florida, originally of Uzbekistan descent. Police sources tell us he yelled Allah Akbar several times before they fired on him. We've been showing you this video of the suspect. We're going to show it to you right now as he runs away after he crashed his pickup truck into a mini school bus. Right now, he's at Bellevue Hospital.
This attack left bodies strewn along the West Side bike path, and we blurred some of this video because it is so disturbing to see. It all started on West Street and West Houston. The attacker literally using a truck to mow down people. He used it as a mowing machine and continued all the way down to Chambers Street, several blocks literally of sheer terror.
We've had IRIS News reporters on the scene for the last 3.5 hours covering every angle of this attack. We're going to begin with Tim Fleischer. He was the first on the scene for us. Tim?
And, Bill, the deadly nature of this soft target attack still sinking into this Battery Park neighborhood as night has fallen here and trick-or-treaters are out. Certainly, it is a very surreal scene. If we can also go back to that picture of the suspect on the ground after he was shot and wounded by NYPD officers standing over him. He's handcuffed. The threat has been neutralized, but it also speaks to how quick a response the NYPD was able to stop this threat. Earlier, though, the carnage was unbelievable, unspeakable along the West Side bike path. Listen now as we hear some of the first calls for help from responding officers.
Associate another 53 pedestrian hit at West Street and Chambers. West Street and Chambers. What?
West and Chambers, shots fired. 1 Street Central. We have one in custody. Shot. We need multiple buses over here. Central, be advised, we have multiple people on the ground from Chambers all the way up to Houston. All the way from Houston to Chambers. There's multiple people on the ground, Central. We need buses from Houston all the way down to Chambers. I got 4 or 5 people on the ground. We got multiple casualties. This is a mass casualty situation here.
The response, jarring, to say the least. It was unbelievable to see the flood-in of FDNY EMTs and firefighters, also more police officers surrounding the area, trying to neutralize the threat, making sure there was no more a threat at that particular point in time. Certainly, they were here to help many, many people who were hurt and injured, but sadly unable to help 8 who passed. Reporting live in Battery Park City, Tim Fleischer, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Tim. The sun has set, but the investigation, that is just beginning, really, at this point. And we've got Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan at the corner of Houston and West Street with more. Jim.
Diana, we wanted to give you an idea of just how this unfolded. As police investigate it, they find that the driver of that Home Depot pickup truck was driving south on West Street. Right over here, as he got to Houston, he veered off of West Street and went right onto the bike path. He hit people within 15 feet of getting on that bike path. Again, eventually killing 8 people. It was the softest of soft targets.
Today, there was a loss of innocent life in Lower Manhattan. The dead and injured were just going about their days, heading home from work or from school or enjoying the afternoon sun on bicycles. This is a tragedy of the greatest magnitude.
We know that this action was intended to break our spirit. But we also know New Yorkers are strong, New Yorkers are resilient, and our spirit will never be moved by an act of violence, an act meant to intimidate us.
We will be vigilant. More police everywhere. You'll see them in the airport. You'll see them in the tunnels. It's not because there's any evidence of any ongoing threat or any additional threat. It is just out of vigilance and out of caution.
Governor, they're talking about all the police that will be out tonight. We can see these are investigators. These are the people who will be investigating this scene throughout the night. You can see it will be a long process. They're bringing in lights so that they can light up this scene. They had much of the evening, of course, to look at what was going on, but it's a long crime scene. It's a big crime scene. A lot of police, a lot of investigators here now trying to piece it all together. Reporting live from the West Side, Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
A long crime scene, to be sure, Jim, and that's why Josh Einiger is at another part of that. Josh was one of the reporters. He was the first to tell us on the air at 6 o'clock that those guys in white suits were indeed FBI crime scene investigators. Josh?
Yeah, Bill, we're here about a block away from where this rampage ended at the corner of Greenwich and Chambers, where there's a giant roadblock and large security presence right now that the NYPD has ramped up in the wake of this tragedy and this apparent terror attack. This, as we learn more information about the apparent terrorist. We could show you this picture just after he was taken into custody. Sayfullo Saipov is, as you said, Bill, of Uzbeki descent, 29-year-old from Tampa, Florida. But recently, ABC News has learned he's been living in Paterson, New Jersey. And we've also learned that he rented that truck at a Home Depot in Passaic, New Jersey, before at some point crossing the river and scoping out this bike path for his attack today. We have video also we could show you from an eyewitness of the suspect after apparently he had rammed all those bikers and joggers on that jogging and bike path, crashed into a school bus, and then he was on foot right in the street at the corner of Chambers and West Street, waving around what appeared to be two guns. They were two fake guns, and that is where a police officer opened fire and shot the suspect. He is now reported to be on a ventilator at the hospital, but he is alive and eventually will be standing trial. We did speak to the person who took that video, a student at the Borough of Manhattan Community College, who said he thought he was watching a Halloween prank. Here's what he had to say.
I saw a guy in the West Street and Chambers Street corner. He was had two guns on him, and he was just running in the street. I thought he's a Halloween costume or something. So I didn't pay attention to him. I just went to the bridge to see from the top what happened. And then the other students of the Stuyvesants, they told me he's the shooter and the cops are at him. So suddenly I heard he was still running in the middle of the street. Then I heard 5-6 gunshots. Then we were all down because we were all scared. Then when I come up and see what happened, then I saw the guy who had two guns. He's on the ground, and the cops just got him.
Back with a live look right now. We are at a staging area here at the corner of Chambers and Greenwich, where the NYPD Counterterrorism Bureau has staged its own members here, heavily armed with long guns and armor. There are also police dogs here on the scene, ramping up security. This is something, of course, that we are well accustomed to seeing across the city on a normal day. But, of course, this is far from a normal day. The mayor, the police commissioner have said that they are ramping up security dramatically throughout the city. It being Halloween, the Halloween parade not far away from here, going on as planned tonight. A very busy night in the city after this tragic day of carnage on a bike path in the middle of the afternoon. We're live in Lower Manhattan. Josh Einiger, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Josh, it's just so surprising that it's just still such a huge crime scene there, even though they're standing down in terms of any threats. But this is going to be a crime scene throughout the night, probably into tomorrow. They're not going to leave anything to chance. They're going to examine everything here.
They're not going to leave anything at all, Bill. And in fact, when you cover just a single homicide, that crime scene, depending on the circumstances, could take them 36 to 48 hours to clear. In this case, you've got such a dynamic, enormous scene, and you've also got multiple jurisdictions involved. This, of course, in the end, will most likely be a federal case. So the FBI's evidence recovery team is on scene, but of course the NYPD crime scene unit, all kinds of investigators from the NYPD, New York State Police here as well. So it's a very complex investigation that is only just now getting getting underway.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, Josh, when and if they get the West Side Highway back open up again, because that's such an important roadway in New York City. But we'll see, and we'll be letting people know, obviously. We have, I'm told, just gotten some new and very important video into Eyewitness News, and we're going to watch this as you're watching this. This is video of the suspect and the actual, what appears to be the takedown of that suspect in Lower Manhattan, happening a couple of hours ago. And it seems to stop there, and then it continues on.
We're seeing it again. This is where you're racking it.
Yeah.
This is after he was shot. We have the still picture you see of the two police officers over him, handcuffing him. And this is the video of that from a very different angle. You see him surrounded
So
by
this is
police
kind
officers.
of with the truck in the way, but we've seen it from that other side angle of the police officers there.
29-year-old
down that
Safulo Saipov of Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
The chief investigative reporter for ABC News, Brian Ross, is here. You've been looking into him where everyone's trying to figure out who he is, why he would have done this. Right. Was he radicalized here? You said he'd been here for 7 years.
He came here in 2010 under what's called the Diversity Visa Program. Essentially, it's a lottery for people from countries that don't historically send a lot of immigrants to the U.S. He won the lottery and came here. He's lived in Ohio, near Cleveland, in Tampa, and now most recently, we're told, in Paterson, New Jersey. We can tell he appears to have been involved in some used car businesses, with lots in Ohio and perhaps one in Paterson.
So you have to wonder, though, where did the radicalization come from? They're going to be looking at computers, phone records, information from
social
friends.
media.
His Facebook page was up. It just was taken down. We have cached it, so we have it.
Okay.
And we can tell a little bit there. He doesn't seem to be unusually radicalized on the Facebook page. He's got pictures of himself with fancy car rims and wheels and shots of himself in the rearview mirror with two eyes, but nothing that suggests some sort of allegiance to any terror group. There have been no claims of responsibility so far. There are a number of supporters of ISIS who are celebrating this horrible attack, as often happens. But looking into his past, we'll see what sort of phone calls he made, what kind of connections he made, and they'll be able to tell something from that.
And do we know, does he have family in this country, or is his family all back in Uzbekistan?
At this point, we can't tell whether he's married, has family here or there, but those are the kinds of things. I know the FBI is already at the house in Tampa, where he once lived, and presumably the same thing's going on in Paterson and in Cleveland.
He is not dead. He could have easily been killed because he was shot in the abdomen, so they were not shooting to wound, they were shooting to stop him.
Right.
But he's on a ventilator now. He's been intubated, so he's not going to be talking, but they would like him alive, I would assume, to get as much information as they can, or at least try.
Absolutely. There is a requirement that they can question him without giving him his rights. If they want to see if there are other attacks, if there are others with him, was anything else planned.
But hard to question when he's intubated at this point.
Right, but I do recall after the Boston Marathon, the surviving younger brother there, Tsarnaev, was questioned, and he was in very bad shape, and they still told the doctors they were going to question him. Because the big question will be, is anybody else involved with you? Is there a follow-on attack?
I was going to say, we've kind of characterized him as a lone wolf in a way, but we don't know if he is a lone wolf at this point.
At this point, they don't. They think they've made the area secure and safe at this point, but were there others waiting to come?
Absolutely, and it's Halloween. You heard the New York Police Department say we're going to fan more security out because so many people were on the street. You can see it on the streets out here in the Upper West Side. They're everywhere.
Right.
This is a soft target, as Jim Dolan said, the softest of soft targets. We've seen it before. It hasn't really happened here like this. We've seen it in other countries, 8 other attacks this year.
At least, and going back 2 years, you can see attacks that began at Bastille Day in Nice, France, in London at the Westminster Bridge, at the Christmas Fair in Berlin, in Barcelona, in Charlottesville, attacks at Ohio State, and now Halloween night here in New York City.
It is the new reality. There's no hiding from this in some way.
As Commissioner Kelly was telling you, very difficult.
You don't know yet if he took into consideration that this was Halloween, do you?
Do not.
Yeah. All right, Brian Ross. Keep us posted, of course.
Yes,
ABC News Chief Investigative Reporter Brian Ross. Thanks for joining us. All right. Thanks, sir.
So we're now going to head out to Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg. She has been out there all afternoon talking to people, talking to eyewitnesses. Right now she's at Chambers and Greenwich, and that is now the police command center that they've set up within the last hour or two. Right, Lauren?
That is right. Chambers Street is open up until Greenwich Street, and then it is closed. And you can still see behind me officers and emergency vehicles. There is a heavy police presence even throughout the streets here in Tribeca. We talked earlier about whether trick-or-treating was still on, and I've seen a number of families going through the neighborhood. Of course, the sirens, the emergency vehicles are a bit startling. It's not what we normally see in this neighborhood. I'm a resident of this neighborhood as well. And for the people who were here earlier in the day, right around 3 o'clock, that's the time where schools let out. Some college students from the borough of Manhattan Community College were sitting nearby when this unfolded, and people were also working in the area. They witnessed what happened as well. So take a listen to how people witnessed and saw this attack.
I see a group, it was 2 women and children. So they're running. I hear one of the young girls say he's got a gun. So at that point I turn around, but around 30 seconds to a minute after that, I start hearing gunshots. So it was probably around 5 to 10 gunshots, one after another, very fast.
And I hear all the noise, and when I go back and I look, I see, a truck a few more blocks down going down the bike path. And for some reason, I went that way. But when I went that way, I seen a couple of bodies laying right there in the bike path. And when I was looking, seeing if there's anybody else, I heard gunshots.
The first thing immediately caught my eye was, I guess it's a Home Depot truck that looks like it ran into something, and it was completely totaled. And then I could see a little bit over to the left of it. It looks like a man was laying on the floor, and EMS was there trying to help him, get him on the backboard.
Was he on the bike path, the man that you saw?
No, this man was over to the left. The bike path stuff happened to my right, and that's where I saw one bike on the floor, another bike next to a person, and it looked like it was run over.
So you heard from a number of witnesses, all witnessing this or the aftermath from a number of different perspectives. The individual who saw the truck going down the bike path, he said to me after, that's an absurd sort of thing to see. You might see a parked vehicle in that area or a police car, but a flatbed pickup truck is highly unusual, and it was going down where the bike lane is. And then it sort of figured in that this is not right. Then he saw the bodies, and that's when he realized just how awful this was. At that point, he only saw 2 bodies, and as we know, the death toll much higher this evening. Yeah. Back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Lord, thank you. As we know, death toll higher, now up to 8, and 11 people still in the hospital injured. Yeah. Many of them, some of them came to Bellevue Hospital. Sandra Bookman is there with that part of our coverage. Sandra?
Yeah, Bill, there has been a heavy police presence here at Bellevue Hospital for much of the evening, and part of the reason may be because the suspect himself is here at Bellevue. As you guys pointed out, intubated and in custody. Just a few minutes ago, we saw photographs of the suspect being brought into the hospital on a stretcher here, into the emergency room here at Bellevue Hospital. Now, as for the injured, we are to be told by Bellevue officials that there are 5 of the injured here at the hospital being treated for serious but not life-threatening injuries. That means we suspect that the other 6 injured are at Lower Manhattan Hospital. We can also tell you that emergency responders tell us that there may be other injured coming into area hospitals. They're not sure how many. They say that's because they suspect that there were probably so many people on that bike path this afternoon that many of them may have self-evacuated and may need to be treated for less serious injuries later. That's the latest now from Bellevue Hospital. I'm Sandra Bookman, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Cassandra, we want to turn now to another hospital, New York Downtown Hospital, and we understand some other folks are there as well, and we want to go to A.J. Ross, who's there right now live for us. A.J.
That's right, Diana. As Sandra just mentioned, she mentioned 6 people coming here. We're not sure at this point the severity of their injuries, but also, like she mentioned at Bellevue, if you take a look behind me here, there has been a strong police presence here, both inside and outside of Lower Manhattan Hospital here for hours. What we've also witnessed in the last hour has been several members of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force coming and going, likely interviewing any witnesses and victims inside the hospital here. as I mentioned, has been constant movement. We understand there were more people inside this emergency area earlier, but they've cleared those individuals out, probably to another area of the hospital. As the mayor and so many people have mentioned the resiliency of New Yorkers, certainly we have to mention the doctors and nurses stepping up in the face of adversity in horrific situations like this. Those individuals that were brought here, again, we don't know the severity of their injuries, but they are certainly receiving the best possible care at this time. And as we get to more information about who those individuals are, the severity of those injuries, we will certainly be bringing you that information. For now, I'm live at Lower Manhattan Hospital. AJ Ross, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, AJ, thank you for that report. We've been talking about how this was such a soft target. This could happen to anybody, and so many people could do this, just a lone wolf out there. So how big a problem is it? And what really can we do about it? It's a question that we usually often ask of our elected officials, and one of them on the phone right now, U.S. Senator Charles Schumer from New York. He joins us from Washington on the phone. Senator, it's Diana and Bill. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Bill.
Yeah.
So what do you say to your constituents? What do you say to New Yorkers?
Well, look, I mean, the first thing is obviously we're all in mourning for what's happened and the families. Hope that those who are injured recover. I guess every thought goes through every one of us. Maybe we know someone who has been killed. Obviously, they haven't released the names yet. So many people. I used that bike path last Saturday. I ride that I often ride my bike from Brooklyn through the George Washington Bridge up that path, and it shows you how vulnerable every one of us is. You know, New Yorkers are resilient. We will bounce back. We won't let these terrorists get their way and change our way of life. We'll never let terror win. But, you know, it's because we haven't had terrorist incidents in New York for successful ones for a while. This is a reminder. It's always with us, and we have to spare no efforts to try and stop it. The lone wolves, the only good news about the lone wolves is since they're not an organized group, they can't do what was done on 9/11. On the other hand, they're much harder to detect because they go online and they get all, sometimes by outside agitation, sometimes by themselves. We don't know if this terrorist had any connection to anyone else yet. Spoken to both the FBI and the commissioner, but they're much harder to detect and stop.
Well, you know, Senator, a lot of people have said this was just a matter of time. Certainly when it comes to any cuts to NYPD police or any of our first responders, you would certainly fight to keep any funding, given incidents like this, and our city is still so vulnerable to this kind of incident.
No question, and we have to fight all the time. I mean, both the Obama administration and the Trump administration tried to cut what's called our UASI funding, our anti-terrorism funding. Bipartisan, Peter King, myself, we were successful in restoring this. But it shows you can't let your guard down in any way. These terrorists are with us and will be with us for a long time. ISIS is losing territory over there in the Middle East, but that may encourage them to do more things like this.
Fear. That's right. Senator, let me ask you this. This is a young man who, as we learn more about him, came from Uzbekistan 7 years ago under some sort of diversity visa where they give visas. We have diversity visas from countries that don't usually have immigrants come to the United States. All this happening, of course, with the controversy over the president's travel ban, court orders notwithstanding. Is this going to give him more fuel for saying, hey, we really do need things like this?
Uzbekistan wasn't on his list.
I understand that.
And so that what we need, I know you do, Bill. So what we need is careful vetting of everyone who comes here, whether they're from Uzbekistan. Look, there are a whole lot of terrorists who are in Belgium and France. And instead of just banning countries and thinking that's safe, 7 countries, you have to look at each individual. That's a much better way to do it.
Okay.
All right, Senator Schumer.
It's just tragic. You know, it leaves a hole in your stomach. It just is.
It has,
especially a place that's so familiar. My daughter, she's now in her early 30s. She went to Stuyvesant. I used the bike path. It's our territory. It's our home.
It is, and I think everybody knows that area so well. Like you, all of us have ridden our bikes or just been down in that area. So thank you for joining us this evening. I think
let's pray for the recovery and for the peace of the families.
Absolutely.
It's hard.
Senator Charles Schumer joining us on the phone from Washington, New York, senior U.S. Senator. Senator, thank you very much.
President Trump, by the way, tweeting in New York City, looks like another attack by a very sick and deranged person. Law enforcement is following this closely, and in all caps, not in the USA.
All right, he's also saying that we must not allow ISIS to return or enter our country after defeating them in the Middle East and elsewhere. Enough, echoing what Senator Schumer had said.
And First Lady Melania Trump tweeting, "My heart breaks for NYC today. Thoughts and prayers as we monitor the situation."
Okay. Danielle Lee, our investigative reporter, has been out. Lucy Yang is next. I'm sorry. Danielle, I know you were ready to go, but I'm going to go to Lucy Yang, who's always ready to go. She also is in Lower Manhattan. Lucy?
She's actually at the Halloween parade room. Lucy?
That's right, Diana and Bill. The key to any city's resiliency is how quickly it responds to an attack and how well it recovers. And this is the picture of how well New York has recovered just a few hours after this horrible attack. You're looking at the parade route, the spectators along 6th Avenue. New York City officials were determined to keep the Big Apple moving tonight. And because this is Halloween, this is the most celebrated Halloween parade in the nation, officials decided it will go on as planned. I can hear the first band coming up 6th Avenue. We're going to try to show you a shot as they march up the avenue. You can see 6th Avenue here is full with spectators, all with great anticipation to enjoy the evening. It is Tuesday night, a school night, but children are here, and all this just hours after the terrible attack. Of course, there is extra security. It is not easy patrolling a venue like this where faces are covered and crowds are thick, but the NYPD, well, they're trained for this. There's usually heavy police presence anyway to make sure the ghoulish night remains just make-believe, and tonight there will be extra layers of security for sure.
We will proceed with the parade, and certainly we've added more resources, more police officers, heavy weapons teams, blocker vehicles on the street leading to the route, as well as more sand trucks. And there's also heavy weapons teams being deployed throughout the city at key iconic locations.
It is important to move on. We're not going to stay stuck into whatever we're feeling in the moment. Of course, if that was happening to my children in a moment, I will be stuck in the moment because it's happening to me, but everybody else right now came for celebrating, and we're wishing the best to those people that got hurt in that moment.
Well, they're moving on. They're moving up 6th Avenue. You can hear them play what else but New York, New York, and crowd is loving it. Tonight is the 44th annual Halloween parade. Revelers spent all year working on their costumes and dance routines. Families came from all over to watch the spectacle. You can hear some applause breaking out. So again, the parade is on. It was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. You see the governor, the mayor, marching at the front of the parade this year. All of this an important show for New Yorkers to say. The police commissioner also here to say New York is moving on, and they're playing New York, New York. Folks out here certainly very glad this parade was not canceled. We're live in the Village. I'm Lucy Yang for Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
There really is a strong image there, Lucy, seeing our elected officials and our leaders there kind of, leading that parade, because that's so important.
Such a big statement, especially those two who don't usually get along. They are shaking hands tonight along with the police commissioner. I don't think they would have normally been going in that Halloween parade.
We're going to take a quick break, and we are going to be right back here at 7:30 to continue on with our special report about the massacre down in Lower Manhattan. We'll be back after this.
Phil Murphy will raise property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes, and more.
Are there other taxes you would raise to get the revenue necessary to keep your promises?
Yes. The answer is yes. It's a ton of money.
We can't afford Phil Murphy.
Hi, I'm Erin Brockovich. If you were exposed to asbestos while working in construction factories or in the military, there's a $30 billion compensation fund for labor heroes like you. Men and women suffering from lung cancer because they were exposed to asbestos, even if you were a smoker. Be smart, do the right thing. Call Whites and Luxembourg or visit asbestoslawyernyc.com.
Call 800-537-1300. That's 800-537-1300.
My daughter really thrived in pre-K.
The rent freezes have definitely helped. Stop and frisks don't happen as much anymore.
Stop and frisk has gone down, and crime has gone down.
The crime is down, and that's good for business.
I see all this insanity in Washington.
I can't even watch the news anymore.
I feel like Mayor de Blasio's got our backs.
He's not going to let Donald Trump tell New York what it can and cannot do.
De Blasio knows this is our city.
And that's why I'm voting.
I'm voting. I'm voting.
I'm voting on November 7th.
Paid for by de Blasio 2017.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, here comes Christie, the sequel. That's what Kim Guadagno will be. 4 more years of the worst movie New Jersey has ever seen. The critics agree. Christie and Guadagno are terrible for women, vetoing equal pay. The worst for hard-working families, giving tax breaks to the super wealthy. Horrific on education. Guadagno stood by as Christie underfunded schools by almost $2 billion. We don't need a Chris Christie sequel. Enough is enough. No third term. No Guadagno.
Illegal alien Jose Carranza shot 4 New Jersey students in the head. 3 died. When asked about deporting criminal illegals, Phil Murphy said,
"Will be a sanctuary, not just city, but state."
Phil Murphy, he's just wrong for New Jersey.
We are back with our special coverage tonight, and what you're looking at right now is the parking lot of a Home Depot in Passaic, and this is the Home Depot where the man who mowed down so many people in Lower Manhattan late this afternoon, this is where he got the rental truck that he used as a killing machine down that bike path.
Home Depot announcing late this afternoon after this happened that they would be cooperating fully with federal and local authorities in this investigation. And
you can already see people there. And it looks like that investigation is underway right now.
We're joined by former Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. Let's keep on that shot for, well, we're off it. But when you look at that, that's narrowing it down where it came from. It was that, well, he didn't hide it because it was a Home Depot. You obviously registered. Yeah. What can they tell investigators? Anything?
Maybe his mannerisms, comments that he may have made, any piece of information. You want granular information that may help in identifying if he had any assistance, identifying what his motive was. We think this right now, you have to believe that it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. This is a lone wolf.
Well, we keep saying lone wolf, but we really don't have the evidence fully to completely back that up, right?
We don't.
So you want to know, was there anybody else who knew about this?
What we've seen in Europe with these types of attacks, there's sort of groups that do it. There are networks. We haven't seen that here with the lone wolves. And I attribute that to a large extent for what law enforcement, federal, local, has done since 9/11. I think the complex attack with many moving parts is unlikely here. Not that it couldn't happen, but it's unlikely because of all the things we put in place. But an individual acting on his own with perhaps internet motivation, difficult.
You put in, under your tenure, under Mayor Bloomberg, as commissioner of the police department, you put in a very elaborate intelligence operation, a counterintelligence operation, right, to rival any in the world, really. That's what people say about it. And that's why these big attacks, that's why you say with confidence that we may have prevented so many big attacks, because the intelligence gathering operations that you have might thwart that. Someone might say something, drop a dime, you're going to find out about it. That you can't find out about one guy sitting there fantasizing about doing this.
Exactly. What has been put in place are tripwires, sort of listening posts, really throughout the world that the U.S. government is plugged into. But an individual who acts on his own with limited information, limited communication with anyone else, and we talked about this, they're using now more and more encryption. This is an app that you can get on your iPhone, very readily available.
Code.
So if in fact they're communicating with people, we don't know. Yeah, right. Well, yeah, it's a code. Very difficult to penetrate. We don't know if he was on anybody's radar screen. We'll
because the question probably in your mind is, how did he get radicalized, right? How did it happen?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that have been radicalized. A lot of it happens just on the internet.
He was on the internet, though, and no indication, according to Brian Ross, you talked to Brian today, no indication that he, before they took down his page, that he had spewed any kind of political rhetoric or ideology.
Right. Nothing radical in anything he transmitted, but that's not that unusual. When you go back and look at these images, some do, some don't. It's so hard to predict. Getting much more difficult to identify lone wolves in this day and age.
Because they know people are watching.
Oh, yeah. They have developed a tradecraft. There's Inspire magazine, these other things on the internet. They tell them, not what to do. So if you're interested at all in doing something like this, you're plugged into that information stream.
When you heard one of your successors, Jimmy O'Neill, up there, he was talking about how this is not going to affect us, this is not going to stop us. But when you're in that chair, when you're commissioner of the New York Police Department, what's the fear going through your head tonight?
You always have to be concerned about a copycat event or perhaps an attack in some other part of the city, because, let's face it, you're going to have a concentration of police officers near the parade, other iconic structures. There are other celebrations in the city. So it's very difficult to, certainly impossible to guarantee, but it's difficult to cover all events.
And the other thing we saw, and we just showed, was the mayor and the commissioner and the governor walking in that parade together with New York, New York. And you really want to rebuild the confidence that everybody has in this city, and that, you know, we can pull together. New York strong, right?
Sure. Well, that's what they're trying to do. That's what we want our politicians to do, our political leaders, to try to pull people together.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I'd be surprised if you found them anywhere else tonight. They're where the public expects them to be.
Yeah. And what kind of presence are we going to see for the next few days in New York City?
Well, you'll see an increased uniform presence. You see a lot of the counterterrorism police officers.
We saw them already, that's for sure.
Other uniformed police officers, and that's to raise the comfort level of the public. I think people do get a sense of comfort when you see additional police officers, and particularly after a horrendous event like this. So that's the goal: protection, but also, hey, we're here to help.
It was bad, and yet it could have been so much worse. You think a mile long, he ran into a couple dozen people, which is horrible. It could have been far worse. And if he didn't run into that school bus, he would have kept going. He would have kept going.
I live there, and lucky he hit the school bus. I mean, God forbid, we have 8 people killed and 11 injured, but he could have gone much further, probably another mile
could have gone down
unhindered.
to Ritz-Carlton, all the way down to the end there. He could have gone all the way down.
Right down to the battery,
And the police officer who shot him, clearly not going to wound him. He was trying to stop him. He shot him in the stomach, so that's not a...
No, you can't shoot to wound.
Exactly.
That's only in Western movies.
It's a myth. But he's alive. And how important would it be for him to stay alive and interrogate him?
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many of these individuals totally confess because they're proud of what they've done. But I think he wanted a suicide by cop situation here. The 2 guns that he had were not lethal. One was a pellet gun, the other was a paint gun. So he anticipated getting out someplace, taking these guns out, and police shooting in return. And of course the officer was totally justified in shooting, but he shot him in the abdomen, and he's alive. Would you like to keep him alive? Yeah, for intelligence purposes.
Okay.
Commissioner, so good to have you on this program, as always. Thank you.
Thanks for being here all afternoon as well. Some great insight. Ray Kelly, former commissioner of the NYPD.
We've been showing this picture as we've been talking here of the Home Depot in Passaic, and we've got Shannon Sohn over the scene right now in Newscopter 7. You've been watching, Shannon, what's going on down below. Can you fill us in on what you've been seeing?
His car's got to be there. Cars got to be in the park.
Been watching the police going in and out of the Home Depot. The Home Depot, by the way, telling us that they are planning on cooperating with police and federal officials on any questions they may have. But the area that they are concentrating on seems to be the area where the vehicle pickups are located. You can see all the police in front of the parking lot here, and if you look very closely, you can see that a large section of that parking lot is taped off, and on the other side of that tape are even more police cars. Now, we have not seen a lot of police going into the taped off area, but we've got about 5 vehicles inside that area, and we can even show you this is exactly where they rent those vehicles. This is a vehicle much like the one 29-year-old Safulo Sapov actually rented from this Home Depot. This is the Home Depot located Dayton Avenue in Passaic. So they have this entire area roped off. We're not entirely sure what they're looking for here. We are assuming that one of these cars in that taped off area may in fact be the suspects, but they have this section taped off. If you look at the police, every now and then we see them pointing in one direction or another, going in and out of the store. The Home Depot remains open at this hour. We're seeing people going into the main entrance. It's the contractor area that they have roped off with this police department activity. Now, we heard someone mention as well that there are links to Patterson with the suspect. That is only about 2 miles away, but this is going to be an ongoing investigation here as well, because if he picked up the truck from here, there is a good chance his car is in this lot, and it looks like that's what police are trying to figure out now. Reporting live over the Home Depot in Passaic, Shannon Sohn, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, Shannon, I was just saying to Bill, Home Depot stay open until generally 9 or 10 o'clock at night, so they've got a parking lot with cars of people who are in the store right now, perhaps employees also of that store, so you wonder if they're literally going and checking car by car almost, registration, license plate, those kinds of things, to figure out which vehicle might possibly be the suspects.
From some audio difficulties with Shannon.
Section of the parking lot.
There could be any section, but you know, it might not. He might not have brought a car. He might have taken an Uber. He might have gotten a lift from a friend. That'd be interesting to know. There are surveillance cameras on at Home Depot. We know that, and they'll be checking those too to see exactly who came inside that lot. They know when he rented it, and maybe they can go back and check that tape and find out how he got there. Was he dropped off by a friend? Was he dropped off by some sort of car service? Or did he, in fact, bring his own car? We will find out. Shannon Sohn, thank you. It was interesting. Shannon brought so many of the pictures of the event today as was happening and the aftermath when she was in New Jersey. She had to shoot across the Hudson because they wouldn't let her fly over the crime scene itself. So an interesting day for that.
So we want to go now to Eyewitness News reporter Danielle Lee, because Danielle has been covering the aspect in Lower Manhattan of parents whose children were literally sheltered in place at a whole number of schools. There's a number of schools down in Lower Manhattan. It wasn't just Stuyvesant High School. It was several other schools down in that area. And I know you got a chance, I think, Danielle, to talk to some of the parents there who had a pretty grueling afternoon.
Yeah, Diana, you know, there's at least 4 schools in the area and a community college, so we're talking about a lot of kids, a lot of students, and students as young as 5 all the way up through high school, told to shelter in place temporarily until really just after 6 tonight was the first time that some of them were reunited with their parents. We did speak to one high school senior at Stuyvesant who talked about watching all of the carnage just from a safe vantage point in her high school and just how scary that was. Meanwhile, here where I'm at PS 234, there were parents crowded around just hoping to get in touch with their kids, glad to know that their kids were safe, but also really anxious just about how they were feeling and how they were processing everything that was happening all around them. Also tonight, the Department of Education is confirming that 2 staff members and also 2 students were among those injured in a bus incident related to this attack, and one of those students in critical condition tonight. So really just a tragic day for the schools here. I want to let you listen to what some of the folks were saying. We were here as the parents were reunited with their children.
A other student in my high school heard gunshots. He ran into the building, informed the security guards, who informed other personnel, and a lockdown was instituted. And we were locked in the building with nobody entering or leaving for about 3 hours. And I was on the pool deck on the first floor with a window facing the West Side Highway, where I was able to see the bodies and 3 destroyed bicycles, as well as all the police, firefighters, bomb squad, SWAT team arriving on the scene.
The principal, Lisa, is just incredible. Let us know right away what the situation was, and then we got a follow-up email from Manhattan Youth, so we felt informed. But still, we wanted to be here. We were waited. So.
Oh yeah, it had to be so nerve-wracking just to be like, I want to get them.
It's you know, another day.
They responded really well and quickly, which makes me feel good. I'd rather they be inside and be safe and it be locked down than they're not managing it. So I think it's unnerving, but it's okay because I know the kids are okay. But I just want to stay calm and like get here and be here so that when the doors open, the kids see us and feel safe. Yeah.
And I can tell you that talking to some of the kids as they were leaving, it really sounds like the school did do a very good job of having those age-appropriate conversations with the students about what was happening. I spoke to one child who was only 5, and he definitely knew that they were staying at school longer because they needed to be cautious about their safety, but to him what that meant was they got to play a lot of extra games with friends. So that was good to hear. I can also tell you that schools will have counselors here tomorrow to help students process how they're feeling and also what happened here today. Diana and Bill?
Well, good. Kudos to all those teachers who were there today helping as well.
And the young ones thinking that, you know, Danielle Lee, thank you very much. The young ones just thinking, okay, we got more time to play games. But they don't know what's happening on the outside. We want to show you this, this video again of the suspect. Immediately after, this is a new video of the suspect, cell phone video, immediately after he crashed his pickup truck.
You see the smoke still coming from the front
after
of his
crashing the bus.
truck there, from that Home Depot.
He has a
vehicle.
pellet gun and a paintball gun. Was he thinking the cops would shoot him? Was this, as some have suggested, perhaps suicide by cop? What was he doing? Why did he just get out and hold those weapons like that? We just don't know. But he was shot by a police officer in the stomach. Right now he is in the hospital at Bellevue with on a ventilator and intubated. We are going to show that to you again, and we're going to take a quick break. More now in a few minutes when we come back from this quick break with our reporters in the field and the latest information as we're getting it into the Eyewitness Newsroom about this suspect. Stay with us.
Liberal insider Phil Murphy wants a bigger government and higher taxes to pay for it. Kim Guadagno wants lower property taxes and to make New Jersey affordable. It's your money and your choice. Kim Guadagno for governor.
At 13, my first job was washing dishes. But my boss was stealing my paychecks unbeknownst to me until my dad confronted him. I've never forgotten that feeling of being cheated out of honest pay for honest work. Or the gratitude that someone had my back. That's why I'll fight for a livable minimum wage and equal pay, and why I'm running for governor, to take on the special interests and expand opportunity for everyone. I'll have your back.
This is Governor Christie. New Jersey is facing an epidemic fueled by addictive opioid painkillers. Codeine, oxycodone, fentanyl, morphine. These are just some of the medications prescribed for pain relief. These pills can be highly addictive, and the addiction doesn't end when the prescription runs out. Many times, people turn to a deadlier option, heroin. Addiction is a disease, but help is within reach. Call 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov.
I thought I'd seen it all, but I hadn't seen anything until I saw George Latimer's false negative attacks on Rob Astorino. Hey, George, stop lying. Rob's a good man. You're the one who repeatedly raised our property taxes, but you haven't paid your own. And now you're saying you'll raise our taxes again. George Latimer, stop lying about Rob Astorino and just pay your darn taxes.
Liberal insider Phil Murphy wants a bigger government and higher taxes to pay for it. Kim Guadagno wants lower property taxes and to make New Jersey affordable. It's your money and your choice. Kim Guadagno for governor.
And welcome back to our continuing coverage of that horrific attack in Lower Manhattan. A man in a truck literally going down the bike path, using that vehicle as a mowing machine and killing 8 people, injuring so many others. And just a horrific act.
1 mile long.
1 mile long.
How long he took him, he went to take that pickup truck and mow all those people down. One of the scenes, the corner of Houston and West Street, our Jim Dolan has been there all afternoon. Jim?
And just the last hour, the scene changing here, Bill. Let's take a look right over here. You can see the emergency vehicles still coming in and out, but they've just put up barriers here on West Street at Houston Street. They probably are getting ready to open up traffic north of Houston, but that area will be locked down for the rest of the night so that they can do the investigation. They brought in some lights and they will light up that entire path. Let's take a look at some video that was shot during the daylight hours of that bike path. When he drove onto that bike path, he hit people within 15 feet of getting on that path and kept right on going. Obviously, later this evening, city officials, state officials holding a news conference trying to give an idea of what they thought how people should react to all this.
To New Yorkers, be New Yorkers and live your life, and don't let them change us or deter us in any manner, shape, or form.
I want to ask all New Yorkers to be vigilant. We know it's Halloween night, and we know in the days ahead people will be uneasy. We ask all New Yorkers to live by the idea if you see something, say something.
Governor Cuomo said, live your life, and we just want to point out that a few blocks from where we're standing, the Halloween parade is going on. The great untold story of terrorism, the story you never hear, is that it doesn't work. People do continue on with their lives. They don't stay sheltered in their homes. They are, in fact, out tonight enjoying this brisk but lovely night in New York, remembering, obviously, what happened and the lives that were lost here. But people do continue to live their lives in the wake of all this. Reporting live from the West Side, Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Absolutely, Jim. You can't let the fear take over.
No, you can't.
You know, the one thing we have not heard yet is the names of the victims. Yeah. We have 8 people who died, and we are still waiting to learn more about the victims and some of the injured. We don't have their names as well. That will continue to come in as the night continues.
There's no question. We're going to continue our coverage with Tim Fleischer. He's also in Lower Manhattan for us. Tim?
And Bill, tonight, this is a very tightly controlled situation by the NYPD and the FDNY here along West Street. And I can show you, you had mentioned the long crime scene of this soft target attack is close to a mile long. At the end of that is that rental truck. And you can see right down the sidewalk tonight, you can see it all lit up in the spotlights there. That's the rental truck that people are focusing on, the investigators are focusing on, as they try to piece together all of the elements of this soft target attack. On the other side of that, sadly, that is the worst of it, where the people were mowed down, both killed and injured tonight, and sadly, they will be working that part of the crime scene as well. Again, very tightly controlled here. Still a great portion of West Street on both the north and southbound lanes are shut down tonight and probably will be for many hours to come. That's the situation here at Battery Park City. Tim Fleischer, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Tim, thank you. You know, it's so interesting, a mile-long crime scene there, and so we have reporters along the way, and each one has its own different stories to tell. That's what's so fascinating about this.
Yeah, you know, Jim has, you know, the bikes and the debris there, and then Tim with the truck, and we've also got Josh Einiger. He's at the corner of Greenwich Street and Chambers Street with a different perspective there, right, Josh?
Yeah, and Diana, first of all, I just want to say, so photographer Brett Cohn and I ran down here. We basically ditched our vehicle not far from where Jim Dolan is standing, and we basically walked down the northbound side of West Street along what looks like it might be a crime scene, but we didn't know at the time that it was, in fact, the crime scene, and that bike path, it was that entire length of that bike path that this guy drove down, mowing down everybody he could get into his path, which is really putting in perspective, that is a mile-long crime scene. We are lucky to have in the city of New York a police department that is as ready as any in the world to deal with something like this, and it shows you how much damage this person was able to do in a tiny amount of time here in the city of New York. He ended down there, and we can show you all the way down. That is where we're going to give you a shot of the front of that truck. And that is where he crashed into a school bus and then wound up on foot, waving around 2 fake guns, and then was encountered at least one police officer, reportedly shouted, "God is great" in Arabic, and that police officer, seeing those 2 guns, believing them to be real guns, obviously opened fire. The suspect now said to be on a ventilator at Bellevue Hospital. If we maybe come out a little bit to the left, Brett, you can see that area now swarming with evidence techs, the FBI and the NYPD doing a joint investigation on the scene. This is going to be a very, very long time. There is so much evidence because of the sheer length of the carnage, a full mile down that bike path on the west side of West Street, the southbound side of West Street. So as we come back up here, we are at a staging area about 2 blocks east of there, Chambers and Greenwich. This is where the closest really you can get to that scene. A lot of security with the NYPD, but as Jim Dolan said, people are out and about. Nothing is keeping them off the streets tonight. We're live in Tribeca. Josh Einiger, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And that is New York strong, to be sure. Josh, thank you. They're certainly not off the streets in Brooklyn, right? That's where they are having this huge... Did I say Brooklyn?
Yeah, you said Brooklyn.
I did. Well, they're not off the streets in Brooklyn either. They're trick-or-treating.
Greenwich Village.
And they're on the streets as well in Greenwich Village, as well as Brooklyn. Lucy Yang is at the parade for us. And Lucy, you had one of the strongest images of tonight. The mayor, the police chief, and the governor all walking together at the front of the parade.
To that music.
Yep. New York, New York.
New York, New York.
Well, that was a very important moment for this city and beyond to say they march in solidarity. We march without fear. We march together on this Halloween night, even though it was just moments after that terrible attack. I do want to mention the Grand Marshal this year is Angelica. She is in the float behind me. I hope we can come to her, and as she pulls by, we'll try and zero in so you can see who the Grand Marshal is this year. But this is the 44th annual Greenwich Village Halloween Parade. It is, as billed, pretty fantastic. You will see just about everything walk up 6th Avenue. It is not just the largest Halloween parade in the country. I have to mention it is an international event. All along the route, you will see tourists from all over the world who flew in just to march up 6th Avenue. We're on 6th Avenue by West 3rd Street. By the show of tonight's event, you wouldn't know there was such a terrible attack just a few hours ago, but this is what New York is about. It's about moving forward, about being resilient. It's about not being cowed by one act of possible terrorism. So we've seen a lot of floats go by this evening, but again, I want to mention we began with the mounted police this evening. They got a big round of applause. So did the sanitation workers coming in behind the horses. But anyway, police got a big round of applause as they marched up 6th Avenue. And then the first marchers in the parade were the mayor, the governor, the police commissioner, all to the tune of New York, New York, to say New York strong. And how about a little bit of New York fun tonight on this Halloween parade? We're live in the Village. I'm Lucy Yang for Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Lucy, we're wondering, is anyone talking about this? Has it been a source of conversation where you are? Can you hear me? People talking about it?
Bill, the folks I've asked on the route could not be more thrilled that the city decided to let this parade happen tonight. They felt this was important to send that kind of message that we are moving forward. They're going to have fun tonight. And certainly for all the tourists who flew in from all over the country, a woman flew in from Spain. She was all dressed up. She was marching. She said this is why she came here, to march in the New York City Halloween parade.
And I think, Lucy, it's good for all of us to see those smiles on everybody's faces out there. It's been a rough day, and thanks to you and to all of our reporters out in the field. You all have done a great job.
Thank you, Lucy Yang. Well, another one attack in New York City. This one man bent on a massacre with his rented pickup truck. 8 people are dead, 13 others are injured after 1 mile of carnage on a West Side bike path in Tribeca. A truck as a plow, and he mowed down everything he saw.
The suspect identified as 29-year-old Sayfullah Saipov from Tampa, Florida, but we did learn that he moved to Paterson, New Jersey 3 months ago, and he has a wife and 3 children. He is of Uzbekistan descent. He's in this country on what's known as a diversity visa. He's been here for the past 7 years, and he was shot by an NYPD officer this afternoon and is now at Bellevue Hospital.
New York City and state officials say there are no ongoing threats to the city, at least. The Halloween parade, as you saw, going on right now as planned, but significant increases in security all over the city. Moving forward, we're going to see it. It'll be palpable. Meanwhile, we are all in shock and we are mournful, and that numb feeling that happens with this kind of inhumane and evil event occurs.
Eyewitness News is going to continue to monitor this story for you. And of course, we want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear from you. So please check us out at ABC7NY, and we'll continue to have ongoing coverage for you throughout the evening.
We'll be here for Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock with another round.